Hi, I'm Yasmin Owusu, and this is my producer, Charlie Kesenek.
But I'm your husband, and you're using all my stuff right now. What are you talking about?
So anyway, I've been looking for a one-stop shop podcast for wellness, amateur sociology, psychology, pop culture, and whatever else sparks my interest. So I created one. We are limited to no lanes. We hit the gas and get into it. This is Peaked. Press play. Hi, welcome to Peaked Podcast. I'm Yasmin, your host, and we're back for another week of Peaked. Full disclosure, I'm back for the fourth time trying to record this episode because, so I live on the east side of Austin, and local color, which I would never change, which I absolutely love, patina terroir of the area is that every 5 seconds there's a car that sounds like it's a, I don't know, murdered out Nissan or something with a machine gun attached to the back of it going down the street and just like blasting its subwoofer. If a subwoofer is something you blast, you'd have to ask producer husband Charlie. Either way, I'm not going to start recording again. I also live near the airport. That's a whole other story. If you hear a weed whacker, if you hear something that sounds like a machine gun, I'm not under siege. I just live in East Austin and love it here. Wouldn't change it. Moving swiftly along, I almost said on to bigger things, but truth be told, we're moving on to smaller things. I think I've had fairly serious and thoughtful episodes the last few. Like I had my, rant about the Kevin Hart roast, which, obviously was very charged for me with the racial issues and whatever. And then last week, me and Charlie had a really lovely and really thoughtful conversation about, aesthetics and whatever. So I think it's really well timed to have a really smooth brained episode to just like put our minds on the airplane mode that I put my camera / phone on to record these and just like get into some nonsense. And it's perfect because I did just finish rewatching the Summer House reunion, Bravo reality show, Summer House. If you're not versed on this particular show, I would probably just check out a different episode because I'm really just going to talk about this reunion. And there's a little bit of like presumed knowledge and, some reading, watching comp you would have needed to do to like understand a lot of this. And it would take me just way too long to get into the nuances of explaining everything about it. So this is just going to be a those who know kind of episode. I have managed to get producer husband Charlie into Summer House, especially this season, but like a couple of seasons before this, like he could dip in and out episodes. I really can't get him on board with Housewives. There's something about like the timbre and the frequency that like a gaggle of like 60-plus-year-old women can achieve. That I think it's just, you need to have the pain tolerance of someone who can tolerate birth or like, childbirth or something to like really be able, like it's not for the weak is what I'm trying to say. Not calling Charlie weak, but too weak for Housewives. But I've been able to get him on board with like the Southern Charm, Vanderpump Rules when it was a thing, like these kind of ensemble unisex casts of like younger people. I mean, some of them are close to my age. I mean, they're pushing 40 or older, but that's younger than like, they can't get the AARP card yet, let's say. So I've gotten him into that. And this season, we both like really watched the whole season of Summer House, and it's very well versed. I would pause and just like give him the backup, like whatever, the backstory of like everything that was happening. And yeah, I'm always right, as everyone in my very Taurus way. I'm always right, as everyone knows, as is well known. And I have clocked. I'm an early truther when it comes to Amanda.The. I clocked her, and I've said this before, but not her first few episodes on, because again, she was so peripheral. She would just like come in late at night, like speak nasally to like Kyle, like, "Hi, Kyle, is it okay if I stay over?" Like whatever. She was like kind of just like a booty call. But then once she became established in the house, when her and Kyle really became exclusive, and I just started to see her kind of personality come to the forefront. I think for me, and I think maybe for many people who grew up on the East Coast, especially the tri-state area, she feels very familiar as an archetype. She feels Like someone said this best when I posted a video just talking about how like, I've been OG, you can check out my, digital footprint, OG, not an Amanda apologist. When everyone was like, she's the coolest, she's the chillest, she's the funniest, she like doesn't care, I always thought she was a pick me. I always thought she was trying to not be like other girls. I think a lot of her commentary around just like, oh, I'm just chilling, I'm not dressing up was like very bullshitty and she's very sex forward. I mean, she doesn't give a fuck to like dress up to go out. And like, as Lindsay famously said about her once, like, let's get you dressed. But at the same time, she'll come out into the living room to like make herself food in front of all the guys that work there in a see-through pair of underwear. So like, I do think you care. It just all felt very manufactured to me. Anyway, I babble, but this one commenter on one of my posts talking about how I've never been an Amanda apologist said, I went to FIT and there's a million of those in my school. And I'm like, that's exactly right. She would absolutely be daddy's little princess. I know a lot of people think she's like uber affluent, but I think just like upper middle class at best. But it's just the spoiledness by the father. Like she just feels like that type of Italian princess that comes from this like really towny little like bumblefuck like town in New Jersey. But there she's like top of the totem pole because like she has a little bit of money. She's pretty cute for her area. But like none of this really translates to like a city like New York City, right? And so I could just feel her coming in there with that vibe of like, this is who I am. And we're just looking at her kind of as an audience, or at least I am, me with my discernment. I'm looking at her as an audience member being like, what does this chick think she is? Because she certainly is not what she thinks she is compared to like her surroundings. Like this is not, suburban New Jersey. Like this is like, a really rich playground for New Yorkers to like run to. Like that you're not like the top of any totem pole here. And what I think is funny is I do believe that as the seasons went on, the introduction of people like Ciara, now nemesis Ciara, caused an identity crisis for her. I think also being from where she is from, I don't think she's used to sharing space, attention, and male gaze with people of color. I mean, that became clear to me with Jules too. There's almost this feeling like she thought Jules had some kind of audacity to, I don't know, ask for space or like, be part of the group and like get male attention, that she just doesn't, I don't think she believes that those people belong there. And I think she was very surprised by the effect Ciara had on other mates. I mean, she wasn't a single woman, so there's not really a whole lot she could do about it. But I think, knowing that this was the guy, Luke, or the girl that Luke was dating, that's how Ciara actually comes into the house as like someone that Luke was dating in the past and they're kind of maybe going to rekindle. And I think we all saw her weird behavior around Luke. I think him not paying her a lot of attention caused her to have a really, really strange meltdown where she smashed up the kitchen, saying he shuts down conversations. I mean, if your husband is Kyle Cook, I think you're okay with people shutting down conversations, and it just shouldn't really be this emotional for you that like some random like Midwestern guy like doesn't care about your little story. Like that just seemed really sus to me. And I just think we were watching a girl having like an absolute like ego death, like in real time. All of this culminating, of course, to her basically hooking up with and now dating seriously a guy that Ciara has like gone through the ringer with. And for all the people who are still very much with this narrative of like, it was 2 years ago, Ciara shouldn't care. I stick to my guns on the fact that I would not fathom to go anywhere near any guy that my friend had complicated, difficult, old, new, medium-aged feelings for. And it's really seamless for me. It's not a thing that I just like stop myself. I just never fathom it. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, you can feel that way, but you don't act on it. I think even the inception of the thought, like, you can be attracted to people, sure. You can think they're attractive, sure. But I think there's a natural off switch for people with like morals, with integrity that just like comes on with people who are inappropriate to consider. And so then it's not this internal battle for you not to fuck them. It's just like, I don't know. For me, it's as normal as like this being a family member or something. It would just never occur to me to view them that way. They're just a non-negotiable. And I think if you're fighting really hard for her right, as though you're in front of a court of law and she needs to prove her reasons for like thinking this guy is like, she has ownership of him or something, you are putting a lot of energy into justifying something that, like, I think a lot of us find just morally really easy to just sidestep and have our whole lives. And you should probably examine that. So anyway, we go into the reunion, and that's the end of my babbling around the like periphery of this area. And let's get right into reunion. So right off the bat, we see Kyle Cook and Lindsay Hubbard just being like, this is before the reunion, whatever. It's like, B-roll or something, not to use Wes Wilson's. Like, I post my B-roll. Anyway, they're just sitting there, and like, Kyle is like, sit down, you got to read this. And it's the statement of Amanda and Wes's joint statement, basically saying like, yes, it's true. We are in fact, like, fuck people who have just done this greasy thing behind the scenes. They essentially have come out and like admitted they're together. I guess during the reunion, they're trying to rebrand it as some kind of apology, but it wasn't an apology. It was just a statement being like, this is what we are, and we're just trying to approach this with care. This is approaching it with care, literally not mentioning the people that like you've hurt, lied to. Like, it has nothing to do with them. This is you saying that you're navigating difficult feelings. I mean, way to play the victim. Either way, so we see that. And then we also see a little glimpse into the musty, stinky, rumpled relationship of Weston and Amanda behind the scenes. Like, obviously, we haven't seen them together really, other than like photos of like her wearing, jorts and knee-high boots and telling him to sit down when he's celebrating an athletic event. I mean, that also was such a great microcosm. You can hear those photographs of her just being like, West, act like you like me, sit down, West. Whew. I've said this before, like to my friends or whatever in every group chat, but I love him for her. And I don't mean that in a nice way. Like, Ciara, you don't got to do anything. Like, God just took care of it for you. Like, they are stuck with each other in the most beautiful way possible. And it just sucks for them. It's a miscalculation. Anyway, so we see the little behind the scenes of them just kind of like looking as they do. Every photo I see of them, whether they're in Italy, whether they're at a game, whether they're in like, an NYU, bar in the West Village that it smells like urine and smells like, beer taps that never get flushed. Whatever they're doing, they just always look a little bit like they've been up all night, doing God knows what, eating God knows what. I mean, I guess he's eating it and she's just putting her mouth all over it and putting it back with the rest of the food. That seems to be her way. Either way, it just looks grubby and smelly. Honestly, the relationship, if I had to give a first impression of it, it looks grubby, it looks smelly, it looks very much like how she keeps her household, much to Kyle's chagrin. And I'm really happy for him now that he gets to have like an organized, nice house. I mean, for it to be so bad that it seems like they couldn't even get a cleaner in there to like deal with it. Like, because my thought is that they couldn't get a cleaner or like someone professional to clean up the house because she had no plan for where to put her stuff and wasn't okay with anyone creating one, I guess. Either way, and then we just move on to like, going to see Ciara. Andy goes and sees Ciara. I also just really loved the contrast of Andy's demeanor when he's talking to Ciara and just being like, how are you? And he's like really looking at her and like, being engaging. And like, he just has this compassionate look on his face. When he went to see them, he was like, so you guys seem calm. You guys seem like you're pretty chill, huh? All right. Like, he is not down with them. And, Andy does not really hide his disdain for people well. For those of you who are like, OG Bravo viewers, you can always tell when he doesn't like someone. Like, I know he doesn't like Jennifer Aiden. That seems really freaking clear to me. I mean, there's a few others I could mention, but like, I think historically he has liked Amanda. I think he thought Wes was a good addition, but I don't think he likes self-producers, and he doesn't like thirst, like really open thirst. And I think with Wes is also this like audacity to try to like mastermind something. Like if he's trying to do some kind of coup of Summer House and make it center around him by doing fake showmances or whatever. And he does not like that. He knows that basically the success of Bravo, in spite of a lot of people's attempts who go on these shows, whether it be Housewives or whatever, to self-produce, to have fake lives, it's actually just showing what people don't want seen because they kind of forget themselves in the process, and you actually see their real stories come to the forefront. And I think we all smell a little bit the fact that Wes was trying to create narratives, and, they use the term breadcrumbing a lot on this reunion. And I think that it's an apt term for what he's trying to do. Which brings around another point that I've been making a lot in my constant discussions with my friends and family members. I mean, listen, there's so much actual serious, insane dumpster fire shit going on that I definitely just need to like flush my brain and just like deal with stuff like this a lot. So it's been welcome. But I say a lot that Wes is in the dumb demon category. I think that was like coined by Lala Kent to describe Rachel. I almost said Dolezal, but no. I love that I'm forgetting her name. Rachel Levis. But I apply it to Jax Taylor too. I apply it to, and now I apply it to Wes Wilson. When someone is manipulative and diabolical, but also stupid, this is the kind of thing that happens. Was he trying to orchestrate this thing where he's like, I want to be the Kyle. And so if I just, like rehab my image by like being the good guy with Ciara and like we're the loved, forever, whatever, besties, and like, deep down we have this serious bond and I support her in her house thing and whatever. And like we just have this like flirtation, but like I just kind of keep it on the friend side overall. But at the same time, I can kind of hop on this like Amanda's getting out of her marriage, which, Kyle looks really bad in this season. And he should look bad to some extent. As much as I am a Kyle apologist for many reasons, Kyle has been a good ally, I think, to the people of color in the house. And that is not lost on me. And I also think he can be fun and funny. I do think I have observed that he is inappropriate in the way he speaks to his partner. I think he's been inappropriate in the way he speaks to other castmates. I'm not always behind his actions and like how he carries himself in the house, let's say. But I have a soft spot for Kyle as well. I mean, he's imperfect, but I don't dislike him. But, he is not looking good this season. I can get behind the fact that there are certain ways he treated Amanda overall that like were not okay. And I think West was reading that and being like, well, so what if I'm her savior? What if I pull up my chair next to her? What if I like slowly over time through my support, we learn to lean on each other. And the story can be basically like, I'm not a snake, but I actually like rescue her. And then he gets all the clout that's going to be around her for being this like emancipated woman who gets away from this man. And I believe he was again doing his little clout chasing thing where he thought he could elevate himself this way. And then maybe, Kyle acts so terribly in the house. Everyone galvanizes themselves around Amanda the way they did around Ariana Madix. And he can become the Kyle of the house and Kyle gets kicked off the show. And maybe Ciara has to leave or whatever because like, maybe she's not part of this storyline anymore. And, she's just looked at as the person who just simply can't get over West, even though him and Amanda have this insane love story. This is what I'm thinking his dumb demon brain is doing. It's really hard to jump inside of the brain of someone truly stupid, but, I'm smart enough to do it. Or maybe I'm dumb enough to do it where I can reside there like part-time. But either way, I think that was his dumb diabolical plan. And this is how it happens in real life. Like it just does not work that way. I think you underestimated the amount that people have learned to identify and not care for. That's very parasocial, but have an affinity for, like a distant affinity for Ciara. Just in general, just watching what she goes through and like how she carries herself and what kind of friend she is to people. She was such a good friend to Amanda this season, to the point where I was like, girl, like Kyle has had your back. Like him, love him or hate him, but like he has had Ciara's back. He had Ciara's back against Luke when Luke was like acting like an absolute fool to her. I mean, he's cried for her in every reunion. I was just like, give him a little bit of grace. But like she was very team Amanda, building Amanda up, saying, you can do better than this. You're a shiny, sparkly star for 2 seasons straight. And then this is what Amanda pays her back with. Anyway, we get into the actual reunion, and I mean, I was amazed that it took about 10 minutes for the really, really sorry and really, really there to hold accountability, as she said very dispassionately before the reunion started. Amanda.The took her about 10 minutes to tell Ciara to fuck off. Moment of silence and a slow blink for that. That's kind of all I needed to see about really where her head was. We all heard the leaked audio before the reunion that had come out. And, I had said that I think we're all going to be really disappointed by the reunion when I heard the tone of it, because, it's a little snippet, but there was a lot of Amanda talking over Ciara, putting Ciara on the defense. Ciara having to like raise her voice more and more to be heard, trying to read things, trying to like pull out her receipts, and Amanda kind of over talking them. And I've seen this before. I've seen it, like Bethany loves to do that at a reunion. Tom Sandoval loves to do it at the reunion, the deflect, the talk over, the not let things be exposed. And I just was like, if this is how this goes, it's going to end up being this thing where everyone's like, Ciara should be over it. What do you want Amanda to do? She wasn't really married. And it's going to become this narrative around whether or not Amanda's having an affair, which was not the issue here, and also the timeline, which no one cares about. I did notice West and Amanda mentioning the timeline a lot. Like it was almost like their mantra, like, timeline, timeline. No one gives a flying fuck about the timeline. There is no good time to fuck your friend's ex, okay? For those of us who live in light, I know that all of you, like, Amanda.The apologists who are just like bumbling around in the sewers talking about like, it was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. All right. So go ahead and, hook up with your friend's ex-husband from 2 years ago. Go for it. That's not a lot of our thing. Anyway, so the next amazing event essentially is this is like a side thing that is not very Amanda and Ciara centered, is when Bailey comes out the gate to check Ben to the absolute boards. And as a person who just finds herself being exhaustingly right a lot of the time, I'll take an L on this one because, excuse me, very late in the day matcha for me, but I need it for energy. Because during the whole discussion about Ben and Bailey, when Bailey had made the joke about Ben wanting to, screw Amanda when she was married, basically like, oh, I'm not going to fuck my mate's missus or whatever, that whole debacle. When Ben confronted Bailey about it, I was kind of like on his side. Here's why. As much as I usually just want to be the female apologist at all times, and I do not like, men raising their voice to women, all that stuff. I am someone who does not tolerate side comments and like kind of passive aggressive little digs and disrespect. I don't let those things slide. I really do believe in nipping those in the bud because I think they escalate to a pattern of disrespect. So I do think she had made that joke before. Ben had let it slide. She made it again, and very publicly, to the point where it kind of brought a dinner to a screeching halt. And she has a tendency to be a little bit inappropriate and like not on the same wavelength as the rest of the group at times. So I kind of chalked it up to that somewhat. But the fact that she did have a crush on Ben, and, whether it was conscious or not, I thought maybe she is making this dig because like their whole like, flirtation thing is irritating to her as someone who has a crush on Ben. Whatever the reasoning for it may have been, I just am not someone who likes when people just I think there's truth to every little like snide joke. I don't think there's anything innocuous about making snide and snarky remarks, which by the way, Amanda loves to do on her own time. But similarly, I mean, this is not just like a male female thing. Similarly, when Sabrina confronted, or I guess Ben confronted Amanda about making the remark about Sabrina, whatever, saying, oh, you wanted to screw me in Italy, whatever it was. I also felt like it was kind of right because, again, these little I think that one actually I stand behind because when Amanda actually was confronted about it, her wording was very interesting in her defense. In her position, even if, like, let's say Ben had been overly flirtatious with me when I'm married and whatever, and we're on this vacation, but ultimately it turned out harmless. Nobody hooked up with anybody, and I got a little compliment, right? So if this person, I made a snide remark or I made an inappropriate remark, maybe I'm drunk and maybe I just was trying to like, maybe Amanda, if I was giving her benefit of the doubt that actually does not exist in my body. So let's say I'm someone else completely, and I'm giving Amanda this grace because I don't actually just know in my soul she's a snake. Maybe she's drunk and she thinks that Sabrina has some awareness of the chatter in the house about how Ben is flirtatious with her, and she's actually just trying to diffuse that by making a joke. Even all of that being the case, if she were to come to me, or Ben, I guess, were to force me to go to her and apologize, I would have worded it as like, oh, shoot, like I can be so out of pocket with my jokes sometimes. Like, I'm sorry. Like, we just have this like silly way of joking around. It's just become this thing in the house, whatever. Like, it's dumb and I'm so stupid. I'm sorry. And like, we were not like so aware of like, you and whatever. And so like now that I am absolutely like this, I will not make inappropriate jokes like this anymore. You know how things can just be when you're like guy and girlfriends and you just are goofy and it's just our dynamic. But our dynamic obviously is going to be different now that like I know he's in a committed relationship. That's how I would handle it personally. What I wouldn't say is, I didn't mean for that information to get to you. Girl, what information? To call it information, like as though you are actually like reiterating that he wanted to bang you in Italy, was wild and diabolical behavior. And everyone should have known right there that something was wrong with this girl. But anyway, all that to say, I was not really super taken aback by like Ben choosing to nip those things in the bud. I think it's a personality type. I think when Bailey is saying he reprimands women, the way she laid it out one by one, I was like, I guess I didn't really see him have the same tone talking to other people. Like when he was not happy with Jesse Solomon for suggesting he might want to hook up with Ciara, knowing that was like West's girl. I know this sounds insane right now, but we're in the past. I wouldn't say he really took that tone with Jesse Solomon. He just kind of was like, that's weird, right? And it wasn't a whole confrontation. When he thought that, Kyle was maybe like a little bit inappropriate talking to Amanda, it was more just like, what, it was a little harsh, man. It wasn't like a full on like, look, you don't talk to me. So maybe there is something in how he's like speaking to women. But yeah, I'm of two minds with it. And I do have to say that I am someone who people could argue I will not take a joke well because I believe there's intention behind it, and I will not let them slide. I've just had too much experience with certain people who I ultimately end up kicking out of my life, who want to make these little snide and snarky remarks that seem innocuous, but they escalate and they're continuous. They become a pattern and they want to embarrass you in public. And I really do think you need to check them early. So Bailey is of a different mind and absolutely checked Ben way back, maybe not in real time, but oh my God, she was like, you like to reprimand women. This is like your hobby in life. Like, and I don't like the way you talk to them, and like you're a fucking jackass. I mean, she went for him, and like she had me being like, I don't know, maybe he does like to reprimand women. Damn. But I loved it. Not because I dislike Ben, not because I even like fully agree with her, just because, girl, if that's how you feel and you felt disrespected, I always like a chick who can stand up for themselves. I always like a woman who can handle herself. As much as over the years, I learned to strongly dislike Bethany Frankel. While she was on the show, that's something I always really liked about her. It's like I never was worried that some John Modestian or whatever was going to get the best of her. Her voice doesn't shake in confrontations, which I've learned to like be better with that stuff, but I just love a chick who doesn't stutter, and like, I don't know if it's the Prozac that Ciara is always talking about, but she also got all her words out in a way that was so satisfying. Like her saying to Amanda that you're a great partner for Kyle, or not Kyle, I'm sorry, but I'll talk about how he caught a stray. You're actually maybe a great partner for West because you don't call him out on anything and you're weak sauce and, he can just do whatever he wants and like never get checked on it. And like, he'll just like bump along doing everything he wants in life. And like, you'll just deal with it because like, you're just like, this little weakling and, he gets to be the star and that's that. So maybe you guys are a match made in heaven. I mean, she got all those words out way crispier and way better than I just did. And I think it is funny that a lot of the viewers were like, Kyle was still defending Amanda when he was like, that's way harsh. No, honey, he was defending himself. He caught an ungodly stray. I mean, think about what she just said. You are the perfect partner for someone who just wants to be the star and do whatever they want and not get in trouble for it. And DJ, she didn't say DJ, but you see where I'm going with this. He caught a stray and he was like, ooh, he felt it. Like that was too harsh to him. I don't think that, I mean, he has been very, I guess, reasonable and defending Amanda in whatever ways. But in that moment, I think he just felt a little ouchy himself from Ciara, especially because he likes Ciara so much. So that was great. I mean, Lindsay was great. I have never been the biggest Lindsay apologist. I'm a two-headed animal when it comes to Lindsay. As a, motherless hyena lunatic myself, there's always something about an unmothered woman that I feel a connection to. There's something about us who are not nurtured in that way, in a maternal way, that I recognize and I feel kinship with. And I do feel that with Lindsay. And I also think an unhealed one can be an absolute demonic entity. And I've seen that with Lindsay. I think something with motherhood, it has shifted something slightly in her, at least from what we can see. Again, let's not get too parasocial, but I do feel a little bit more, and I don't want to say softness because good God, that brings us back to those like weird Carl relationship days. But I feel a shift in energy from her somewhat, but not enough to make her a dud at this reunion. She hammered this guy to the wall. I mean, she went at Wes being like, you manipulate women and you're just a clout chaser. And I mean, she said a lot of what Paige said last reunion essentially about Wes. But again, with some new talking points. One thing I do kind of push up against is like everyone's, everyone's assertion that he's like extremely charming and really funny. And that's how he pulls people in. I don't think he is charming or funny. Me and Charlie, producer husband Charlie, who I dragged in this show, we're both really finding it hard to think of one time we giggled at anything he said. I actually think, I've never been a big fan of Jesse Solomon's, but he makes me laugh here and there, Wes has never made me laugh, so I don't find him funny. I don't find him attractive. I think he's an absolute schlump. And it's not really like, this may sound like harsh, but it's not just genetics. I don't think he presents well. I think he dresses himself in a performative way that actually is not conducive to his shape. You should not be wearing, what ASAP Rocky is wearing. You do not look like ASAP Rocky. You know what I mean? Like he just does not ever look right because he's trying to be something. I mean, he ends up looking like Robin Williams when he's like trying to look like a hipster. I don't like it. The way he looks, I don't like it. And I don't find anything endearing. I mean, I had the same problem with Tom Schwartz. I don't think pooching out your mouth and being like talking like a little baby while being a complete narcissist is very attractive. But maybe that's because I am a healed woman. What I think is happening with West when people are asked like, how does he get these women? I think he has the instinct, which is different from intelligence because it's not conscious. He has the instinct to find the gaps in people's self-esteem and what they want, right? So when he's, hooking up with like a 65-year-old housewife, he's going to make her feel young again. He's going to talk about how like, she's like knows herself and she's young and hip or whatever it is, right? And I think with Ciara, I like Ciara for what I can see on the show. I have felt that maybe she has a wound around predominantly white spaces. She has mentioned before that she was in predominantly white spaces a lot, which interesting coming from Atlanta, but I'm sure they exist. But just seeing her relationship with Luke and how it played out, and then consequently whatever the hell was going on with Austin and now West. And it's like, it's funny. These are the most aggressively Anglo-Saxon men you can find. I know that's rich coming from me with producer husband Charlie, but it's not a pattern, you know. The guy that dated before that looked nothing like him. And also he like is nice and like treats me well, right? But she seems to want the approval and to be chosen by a really aggressively Anglo-Saxon man at any cost. And without them having a whole lot of merit outside of being that. Because I think if you've seen enough seasons of Luke and you've seen enough seasons of Austin, I'm really not sure what we're saying that they're offering that is so compelling that they can just treat you like trash, right? And I mean, it's one thing also if this is like, maybe Luke, at least he's like super good looking, but like Austin, West, these are the people that you're letting like absolutely make you look like a fool. And I mean, she keeps saying we had this connection and like no one knows each other like we do. Like, I mean, I'm sure behind the scenes they have a lot of like stuff that we don't know or whatever, but like we've also seen a whole lot of like him being really disrespectful to you and publicly. So that should factor. But anyway, so I do think that so Ciara has that and he was able to exploit it in his dumb demon way. And then, you know, when you get a girl like Amanda.The, she, like I said, I think has gone through an identity crisis of not being the one chosen. And her husband's been calling Ciara, you know, a woman of color who she's not used to sharing space and attention with, his hall pass over and over again, which by the way, Kyle, please. To say repeatedly that someone in a friend group is your hall pass is like inappropriate and insane. And, you know, I noticed that she kind of maybe Amanda has shifted how she looks in very much into like Ciara style over time, you know, whether it be her low slung, you know, relaxed jeans, whether it be the fact that she seemed to have dropped, you know, 75 pounds. I mean, she didn't have that much to lose. She was always like a cute and very fit girl, but she became uber skinny, suspiciously close to when Ciara came in the house and really took on her body type and her style along with it. And like, I have been rewatching old seasons and it is palpable. And I know a lot of people, the discourse online around, a lot of people do think that she's over time absorbed and kind of stolen Ciara's vibes a little bit. And the people on the camp that think that she hasn't are like, you know, everyone dressed in that millennial way back then. I rewatched those seasons and it was almost like weeks after she met Ciara, her style and started to change, her weight started to drop. And there were people who were dressing better than, or more current, I would say, than Amanda during those years as well. You know, Jules had some outfits that I was like, okay, that seemed like at least cute for the time. I think Amanda was very stuck in what looked like a suburban wet seal idea of fashion for a really long time. You know, Paige was on the show. She didn't look like that. Anyway, so I think she has that insecurity and she has that kind of identity crisis thing going on. And she's also been in this relationship that's just really not validating her and making her feel good. And he's like, you know, out at night and cheating all over town or whatever he's doing. And it's a really good time for an opportunist, clout chasing mess of West to come into her life. So overall, just watching this reunion and these moments, I mean, Carl was great too. Carl's a mess. Carl was not a mess at this reunion. I think he was I liked his vibe on it because he was firm. He articulated things well. I really do like that he said that the statement that Amanda and Wes put out was not well thought out. You don't sing happy birthday to someone. No one knows who the hell you're singing it to. And then when they tried to be like, well, we just wanted to reach out to these people individually, then what is this statement for? What is the public statement for if it's not to apologize to these people? Then we don't need it. Is it for attention? What is it for otherwise? You don't need to put out a press release. There's no need for that. If you've talked to the people that you care to show, you know, care and contriteness to, then what is this for? Anyway, so I appreciate the way that he threw that down and also corrected the fact that they were married in New Jersey, in fact, and not in New York City. So that was great. I mean, who else really got in the mix? I mean, Lindsay for the win. I think that just her delivery, I mean, she swears good, as the kids like to say. So she was a real tip top one for me. Jesse Solomon was really quiet and just like sad and crying, which I guess he had this bromance with West, so like that probably was all really icky to him. I hope we take a little bit more time on the whole West telling West Jesse Solomon that he's a weirdo and rude and shitty for asking ahead of time if it would be weird for him to hook up with Ciara. Do I agree with Ciara that that's inappropriate to say about a friend and someone you respect to another guy rather than like, first approach you and, say that he has a crush or whatever? Sure. I mean, I don't know why he's asking for like West's hand in marriage or whatever it is. So I can agree with Ciara on that, but at least he showed some kind of care and worry about whether this would be messy for him, for West, whether or not he's still interested in her now, because exes are messy, right? And for West to absolutely drag him for filth and be like, it's so weird and gross and everyone thinks it's weird and gross and blah, 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 and like, I would never do that. And like, basically just like restake his claim in Ciara and then go and do this. I think we need another moment for that. And I hope that we get it in reunion episode 2. I mean, what else am I hoping that really comes out? I mean, I really hope that we just shut down all the talk about the timeline, because ultimately, how much does it matter? You'd either do a thing like this or you wouldn't do a thing like this. And I don't think there's a statute of limitations on it. I don't think there's a time where it could have started that would satisfy us. If it was, after they put on the statement, if they were, flirting in the house but not hooking, like, I don't know if I need the black box on that. Although, unfortunately, we have it because this season has been absolutely insane and diabolical to watch, knowing what we know now. But yeah. God, I would love to hear what Paige had to say about all of this. And like, I really hope that someone does bring up the allegations that Amanda was inappropriate with Craig. And, we've seen, I think, a reissuing of whatever the episodes clips. I've seen them on TikTok of like Amanda and Craig holding hands under a table, which, by the way, Ciara was definitely doing her own breadcrumbing there when she texted Amanda back being like, so for clarity, there's no hooking up. There's no, inappropriate touching. There's no flirting between you two. There's no holding hands under the table. That was a very specific one. Why holding hands on the table? Because that is what Paige accused Amanda of doing with Craig. And we know that that's why Amanda wrote back her very like terse, correct. So that's interesting. And I do hope that gets brought up a little bit more, but I don't know. I'm so satisfied with this episode reunion part 1 that I just don't even know what I can really ask of in 2 more episodes. I mean, I don't know. Are we going to talk about like Lindsay and Carl becoming friends again? I just feel like there's going to be a lot of filler, and like this was our strong one. So I want us to just like eat on this one for a while, because I think most of the meat is in this episode. And it's better than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be like just like 3 episodes of just justification and nonsense and like, Ciara not being able to get her point across. And like, it really was not that. So I want everyone to celebrate a very uncharacteristic L that I'm taking, and I'm being wrong about something. I thought this would be an absolute dud, and it was an absolute delight. And I'm going to finish my matcha, and I will see you next week. And I might talk about this again, but I might actually just let it ride, because I really do think this is the strongest episode. So if I'm wrong, you might see me here again saying I'm wrong for the second time in 44 years. Or you'll just probably see a whole other a whole other episode about something else entirely. Either way, I will see you next week, and have a good one, and be careful out there.